Hello, this is Paper Cuts Included coming to you live from the Ninja Turtle sleeping blanket, and that's how you know it's legit. Today is going to be an Under the Microscope video. If this is your very first Paper Cuts Included video, this is a YouTube channel that is dedicated to talking about comic books, comic book art, art in general. We talk about artists. And Under the Microscope is a series that I do where I get an issue like this and I talk more of the art technical aspects. If you're looking for more of a story comprehension or a story review, I wouldn't say this is the right place. I do talk about the story, but it's probably 80-20. 80% of me is talking about the artwork itself, talking about the artist, and giving my 2 cents on me as a creator, and then the other 20 is the story. If you're looking for story reviews, I'd go to channels like Comic Tropes is really good for it. So we are going to be looking at chapter 1 of this concrete series called Think Like a Mountain. This is not the first ever concrete series, but it is the newest pickup I got, and I really wanted to read it. It's actually my first ever concrete book I've read. I own maybe 10 issues of concrete. I pick it up when I can because I've always liked the premise. I knew the story of the first issue, so I pick it up when I can. And so I really wanted to look at it. The cover is by one of my favorite artists of all time, which is Jeff Darrow, who did this really amazing concrete piece. It is a 6-issue series, and Jeff Darrow does all the covers, so we'll definitely keep buying those and doing little under the microscopes of them. So let's before that, let me show off some of the art I'm working on. I'm working on a little mini comic where I am trying to practice using Posca markers. So I'll get those out of the way real quick. If this is your first ever video, thanks for clicking. Hopefully this is something you like. This is a almost 7-day-a-week channel. I post Monday to Friday every day at 10 a.m. and maybe this week I'll even post on Sunday. I got a little mini episode that I don't think would be a whole ep, but maybe like a 10-minute. But now that that's out of the way, let's get to look at this book. Chapter 1, Green Fire, which comes from the back from a quote, "Green fire, we need it in the eyes of the wolf. We need it in the land, and we need it in our own eyes." Dave Foreman, Confessions of an Eco-Warrior. Man, this was a $3 book. So, I will say, Concrete is a very wordy story. It is very wordy. It is very sciencey in a way. It's very political, but not being bad political. Like, it does, talk about comments. The story is about Ron Lithgow is concrete, and he was kidnapped by aliens and turned into this, this being where he is encased in stone, But he, cares about things. He writes about things. I don't really know what his job title is. I'm not that educated, but it's something like, he writes about laws, writes about, what's going on in the world, gets people thinking, And this is probably one of the most iconic concrete images of him on his chair. Paul Chadwick is the artist. He draws it, writes it. The coloring in this is by Chris Calanor, but Paul Chadwick is a very interesting dude. I need to do some more background knowledge on him, but every issue of this concrete series, it comes up with some sort of political thing, but doesn't beat your head over it. So if you don't like wordy books or, not really non-action books, Concrete might not be for you. I think a really good comparison of it would be to Puma Blues, which we'll be doing a video on next week on the first 1 to 3 issues. So the story right now we're picking up with Concrete, watching one of his favorite TV shows where maybe it's like a Twilight Zone style, and it's about these deceased people talking to each other, and it turns out one of these floating heads was a environmentalist who wanted, or not, I guess, anti-military or anti-death, and however you would talk about it. And we see him trying to block a train that is carrying bombs, and he's chained himself to people, and you know, it's just it's a big metaphor. I really like these dialogue little squares, that green really stands out, and this is, I feel like, a really good way to show a TV show is do these almost monochromatic panels, blues and grays. Like, experiment with that. Don't just make your flashback or your TV watch-in the exact same as the rest of your panels. Do something different with it. We just looked at Dalgota, a book where they used wavy lines for their panels to signify when they're talking about stories or talking about the past. So just try it. Do something cool like that. And look, we got a little dove of peace while these people are protesting, and eventually they all die because the train hits them. Here we're going. There's wildfires happening right where Concrete's living, so he goes to look at them. Really well done way to draw Concrete. I always like how he draws Concrete, especially with this shading. I don't know what it is about Concrete shading, but it always looks good. I feel like it's very underrated shading. And he does good with just black panels too. He's not oversimplifying or overdoing it with extreme detail. Like, if Jeff Darrow drew Concrete, there would be so many more cracks on Concrete, like this. And I'm not, hating on Paul Chadwick for not doing that. That's not what I'm saying at all. I think it actually looks better in some regards to him look less detailed. It reminds me of how Jeff Smith does Bone, where it's they're not simplified figures, but they're not too busy. You can always add more detail. It's hard to, take away detail. Like, he might look basic here, but then you get to panels like this one and this one, where it's got that immense shading detail. And I think that's really good. There's a panel, I think, almost midway through that we'll definitely have to look at. Or, and I was curious to see if this was a good issue to jump into without reading the first one. It is in a way. They referenced stuff before, but Paul Chadwick does add a little, for the new readers, kind of what's the story, what's happened, So it's pretty cool. This is a really good, these are 2 great pages. It's a lot. He really could have made this book talking heads, and if you don't know, that's just pages of just a head, just a straightforward head just talking. And that gets boring really fast. It, turns the reader off. You need to find a way to make your book flow organically. And Paul Chadwick does super good here, where he does so many different compositions and just, looks of Concrete's inner monologue. If they just did 10 panels of just this one scene, that would get boring so fast. He's also just doing very different color tones in a lot of these panels. We get earthy tones, then warm tones, cool tones, warm tones, So just experiment with that. Always figure out how to make talking heads not talking heads. Think out of the box. Try to make it organic. Get the reader invested. Don't just be boring. If it's boring, they're not going to come back to read it. So, Concrete is going to be meeting with one of his friends, and it is a environmentalist who has been recently fired from her job and wants to talk to Concrete about him writing about their cause. They're environmentalist, and they want to get this specific forest from getting logged. See, and this is where, like, differences in talking heads happens. Like, this page is a little bit weaker than this page. And this is what I mean by talking heads, is don't have your book have half of it like this, which Concrete does have to have talking heads. It's not an action book. Not, 60% of it is going to be pages like this, where they're doing these long monologues about the thoughts of this or the thoughts of that, what's happening, what is this organization's deal. But just always try to find ways to make it interesting, make it organic. Do these big panel outs, these silhouettes. Just don't just have every panel look like that. Like, this is a good panel, but if you make every panel look like this, it's going to get boring so fast. And I feel like that's a good takeaway from this Under the Microscope video, is talking heads, figure out how to not succumb to it. And then put metaphors. Concrete is a big collector of art because he hates mirrors, because he just sees himself. And so he buys all the artwork. And we notice a lot of his artwork is of like transformation themes or sirens getting their sailors. Like I wonder if these, the naked ladies are, almost like Venus, the birth of Venus, the creation of a new thing. Concrete is the creation of a new thing, but he's not regarded as the beauty that we see Venus as in art history. And they're arguing about the semantics of a eco organization versus eco-terrorist, the differences between them and like a pro-life kind of organization, which we won't talk about. We're just talking about comics here. We're not going to get into politics, He does draw concrete really well. I've done a print of concrete. If you want to see that print, I'll probably do a community post about it, but you can also go to my Instagram, which will be in the links description. I sell t-shirts and stickers of that kind of stuff too, and my TeePublic, which will be in my links too. So don't feel afraid to go look at it. I love how his chair is cinder blocks. Like, Paul Chadwick really figures out how to make, concrete is a victim. His life has been ultimately changed by his, situation. Like, he can't go on centered airplanes. When he gets in a car, they discuss how their shocks are going to need to be replaced afterwards. And he can't sit in a normal chair. He has to sit in his throne, But yeah, and then my favorite panel in this is this really good shading talking about how depressed concrete gets. Because he doesn't have to sleep, he doesn't, and he can stay as, still as a stone, and it really shows it, where we see him begin it and then transform into, this really well done shaded, and you get that desolate feeling really well, and this is my favorite. Also, these colored, just monologues, do that. Don't just make them white. Play around with some colors, because this is what'll make the viewer remember your book. Maybe subconsciously, but it'll happen. They'll remember it. It looks so good that way. So just play around with colors. Play around with typography. Lettering in a book is an art all in itself, so play around with it. That's why we have letterists out there, because some people are so amazing at it. So Concrete meets with that environmentalist again and some of her cohort, and they try to get him to join them again, but he kind of refuses, in regards to he is a famous person, and his reputation would be trashed if he were to join them. And here we get probably the biggest metaphor, the mermaid with the probably unfortunate sailor who's going to be dragged to his death in a few seconds. Because mermaids aren't as nice as they are, were. A lot of times they're siren calls. They take sailors to their deaths and all that. So, really good use of metaphor. Think about doing that kind of stuff in your books. Don't do it too much, because that's going to get old really fast. You know what I mean? But it works really good in this book. And here's a really good, nice, full figure drawing of Concrete, to almost full. They cut his feet off. But this is probably the best one-page panel. At least it's my favorite. This could be a really good, cover too. If you just cut out the text, put the title right there, I could see that as a cover piece. I'd love to see the pencils of this. Yep, so the environmentalist husband's freaking out. He gets sent out, and turns out Concrete's house goes on fire. So he's just like, get the paintings, get them out of here. That's the only thing I care about. And it's weird that he doesn't say the dog either. I wish he would have said the dog. But maybe that's how kind of out of touch Concrete's getting. So they're able to save his warehouse, because he lives in a warehouse. They save all his paintings and all that. And he decides to join them, because he feels this sort of, they helped me save my house. Maybe I should help them. Really good, another really good one-page spread too. This really good action scene. where it's separated, right? That's the separation, but it reads so fluid. You know what I mean? So just play around with stuff like that. And, just that's some really good lettering right there. And really good panels. These like diamond shape panels. Just play around. If you think you know how you want to do a page, do 5 different layouts and you'll get some really interesting results, and get, from those 5, pick out your 3 favorite. From those 3, draw them again, see what you can improve, what didn't work from those 3, and just eliminate them till you get that first one. That sounds like a lot of work, but hey, if it takes 100 pages to get a page right, it takes 100 pages to get a page right. And one day, then it's only going to take 20 pages, then 10 pages, then 5 pages. And that's it. I don't think anyone can just draw 1 page and be like, it's the best page ever. Comic book making's a hard thing to do. And here's how we get to see how stocky and solid he is. That's a really good panel of it. But no, he says to join them, and then he starts to go with them. And we see how heavy he is, because it makes the good old hippie wagon go that way. And the last panel, and your question of what's gonna happen. Could the stranger have set the fire? And we don't know. I don't know if this. I'm reading this with you. Like I said, this is my first ever concrete story, so I can't wait to look at more of this kind of stuff, or more of this series. Finish it. Hopefully, I can get all the rest. I need to get the 4 more issues, and then I'll have the complete set of it. And I think maybe once a week for the next, 5 weeks now, we'll look at them. Or maybe once every other week, so you just don't have 5 weeks straight of concrete. But who knows? I really like this. I think it's a good little introduction to concrete. If you just jump right into it, I think it really tells you what this book is going to be. It doesn't lie to you about how this is going to be a very wordy comic, you are going to do a lot of reading. You're not just going to jump into it and have concrete fight Superman. It's going to make you think, and it's probably going to make you depressed, some of the topics they talk about with the environment and stuff. But a really good book, really good panel layouts, really good, character designs. He, like Jeff Smith, draws his characters very consistently and very well. There's not a drop in his quality, and, it's good. It's a solid book. It's not, it's not what I would say the best book of all time, but I can see where people like it a lot, and it's going to make me come back and read it, which, that's one of the characteristics of a successful book, is does it let you come back and read it? And I completely forgot something we always do in these Under the Microscopes, is the cover successful? Would it make you come back? Mostly yes, a little bit of no. It is very well done. I think this blue typography will make you stop and look at it. I think without it, you would walk right past it because of the muted tones. It's a great Jeff Darrow cover, so I'd give it a 7 out of 10. I can't believe I forgot to do that. But, I think it's a solid book. I can't wait to see what else is in it. Maybe we'll do a 1st issue to 6th issue comparison to see if there's any growth, if any. I doubt it, because that's not a whole lot of time to look at. That's 6 months of work, but who knows? So, if you made it to the end of this video, thank you. This is probably going to be a shorter Under the Microscope, because not a whole lot to talk about, or in my opinion, with this book. It doesn't break the mold, it's solid, and it's good. But if you like this kind of stuff, like, comment, subscribe. It really helps us out. We are just made it past our 20th video, and it's been a real fun adventure. The community's been real good. I have some amazing subscribers who comment on a lot of videos. If you want to see more of this, we have, like I said, over 20 videos now of pickup videos, Under the Microscope videos, tips and tricks. Well, one tips and tricks video, and I'm planning on doing a whole tips and tricks on covers. So give us a chance. We hope to make you enjoy it. Like I said, this is ran by me and 2 other co-hosts. So it's fun. If you want to see any more of my art, my links will be in the description. My co-host links will be in the description. And like I said, thank you for joining us. That is Under the Microscope, maybe episode 4 or 5. and we just looked at concrete, think like a mountain. So I guess I'll send you on some marching orders, and I'm out of here. Make more art.